Hi, my name's Tim Clark, a director at Harrison Clark Chartered Surveyors. In this video, we will be considering what items a landlord can include in a dilapidations claim. Commercial leases are very different to residential tenancies and typically have a number of lease clauses which relate to lease end dilapidations claims. The main difference is that there is not normally a fair wear and tear clause in a commercial lease. At lease end, landlords are entitled to expect the building to be given back in a state compliant with the lease clauses and are entitled to bring a claim, often of a financial nature, against tenants that do not comply with their lease clauses. These types of claim are so common that the courts have a specific set of guidance related to these claims called the Pre-Action Protocol for Claims for Damages in relation to the physical state of commercial property at termination of a tenancy, though we call this the Dilapidations Protocol. The main things a landlord can claim for under dilapidations relate to disrepair, failure to redecorate, failure to comply with the law, failure to reinstate alterations, and associated on-costs. This video will discuss these as broad, generalised topics. However, as with anything to do with dilapidations, it depends on the exact lease wording. This video should be used as a guide, but for advice on a specific lease, you must seek qualified professional help. Most of these items are fairly self-explanatory, but you should remember that the landlord should only claim for breaches of the lease that will cost them money to put right, or which will reduce the value of their property. A schedule of dilapidations should be seen as the landlord's opening gambit, detailing works that they believe are necessary for the tenant to comply with their lease obligations. We normally view a schedule of dilapidations as a record of technical breaches of the lease, as it is not always the case that breaches of the lease will cost the landlord money to rectify or make them otherwise suffer loss. The Dilapidations Protocol requires landlord and tenant or their surveyors to meet on site and discuss the schedule within 28 days of the schedule being received by the tenant. It also requires the tenant or their surveyor to provide a written response to the landlord or their surveyor within 56 days of the tenant receiving the schedule. This demonstrates that the court system expects the schedule of dilapidations to be a starting point and requires the landlord and tenant to consider where the landlord's true loss resulting from breaches contained within the schedule of dilapidations arises. This means that just because the tenant has breached their lease, a landlord cannot necessarily expect to receive compensation. Some breaches are inconsequential. It is important to understand that even though the tenant has breached their lease, not every breach will result in loss to the landlord. This is where a deep understanding of buildings and dilapidations law is critical. To assess the true loss means getting deep under the skin of the claim and comparing the exact situation to dilapidations statute and case law. We have a separate video on assessing loss in dilapidations. While dilapidations surveyors will be involved in each stage of the dilapidations process, this is where they really demonstrate value. It is important, therefore, that your dilapidations surveyor really understands the law surrounding dilapidations, rather than having a passing understanding of the lease clauses and construction technology. A landlord can also claim for additional costs which are not work items. Some examples are things like appointing a contract administrator to oversee necessary building works, but other examples can be more contentious, such as loss of rent. Loss of rent is notoriously difficult to prove, but can be a valid claim in some instances. Finally, damages in lieu of VAT can be reclaimed from the landlord if the landlord will have to pay VAT but is unable to reclaim this from HMRC. The landlord can claim for breaches of the lease that cause them loss, and this loss is typically established through negotiation between two surveyors. If you need further assistance to assess exactly what you are able to claim for under your commercial lease, our team of expert dilapidation surveyors can be contacted on 02381 550051. We look forward to speaking with you soon. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up and subscribe.